Colorado at Kansas, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. Storylines know, can Kansas play spoiler for the third straight week? So right now, Kansas with a 4-6 record on the season. A lot of people go, oh, it's just 4-6. Who cares? They're a really dangerous team right now, Dawn. Of their 6 losses, only one of them came by more than 6 points. And right now, Kansas is a top 40 team in the country, according to PFF's power rankings. And over the last 2 weeks, they took down not one, but 2 Big 12 title contenders in Iowa State and BYU. And they're trying to make it 3 in a row this week against Colorado, who currently controls their own destiny in both the Big 12 race and in the college football playoff race as well.
Yeah, good team, bad record. I said it last week, and it's a team that's fallen on a lot of bad luck and turnovers and kind of some of the things that can just lose you the ball games in moments. But I think the thing to mention, too, in those 2 games, they beat Iowa State in a shootout. They beat BYU in a slugfest. They're willing to play any which way as long as they win the ball game, and they're still looking to get into a bowl game and recover to go at least 6-6 and have something to look forward to in the postseason. But no, I mean, we've said it for a couple weeks now. You can't take this Kansas team lightly at all if you're Colorado, and even the spread is showing. I think Colorado's only a 3-point favorite, just like BYU was last week. So there's no reason to overlook this game. There's a lot of games like this week, but this is very much the proof is at least in front of us with Kansas. You beat 2 ranked teams in Iowa State and BYU, who, I mean, they may have ruined their seasons the way the rest of this could go, right? Kansas is really, really dangerous. They have a lot of talent.
And the week before, they only lost by 2 to Kansas State.
They should have won that game.
They almost won that game as well. It could have just been Kansas State, Iowa State, BYU, back-to-back-to-back.
I mean, you're talking about, and look at the teams they've lost to. When you mentioned Kansas State, Jalon Daniels with a couple of late fumbles. UNLV, they very easily could have beat earlier in the year. Illinois was I don't know if they were a ranked team at the time, but we've seen Illinois ranked. Like, these are not just bad teams they're blowing games to. They're losing close games against really good teams.
There's a great comment in our live chat right now from Sycamore Savage saying Kansas was mad that their season was a failure, so they're taking the whole conference down with them.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're kind of doing that right now.
If you're a team that doesn't have to play Kansas in this stretch run, you should be feeling really lucky. But like Arizona State should feel really good right now that they don't have to play Kansas as they're playing right now, because this is I don't know the whole list of 4-6 teams, but they're probably the best 4-6 team in the country.
That's a great comment right there, Don. You have the Kansas offense that was really struggling to start the year, but now all of a sudden they're starting to look like the Kansas offense of last year. What should we be looking out for with the Jayhawks of the ball?
Okay, so I'm always looking for new dimensions, and when we have teams multiple weeks in a row, and we find different things to talk about, right? And Kansas, they lead the Power 4 on run blocking grade, and they have Devin Neal, and they have all this Quentin Skinner and Luke Grimm and all stuff. And then the more I look at it, I just go, it's just about Jalon Daniels. So I'm just going to make this speech again. Look, there's 4 games this year where he has at least a 79 passing grade. Kansas has won all 4 of those games. There's 6 games this year where he has below a 69 passing grade. Kansas has lost all 6 of those games. It just comes down to the super high variance of Jalon Daniels. And he made the one big mistake with a late interception against BYU last week. His defense bailed him out. But that was really the only one big mistake he made all day, a passing grade right around 82. BYU, again, I mentioned it earlier, they held Kansas to 78 rushing yards. If you told me before the game BYU did that, I'm like, oh, it's over. It's done, because they're only going to give up 17 points and they're going to win. BYU missed their opportunities. Kansas defense, it does have some pieces, especially in the secondary. They can play in the secondary now. It's going to be fun to watch Mello Dotson and those guys against Colorado on your side of things. But this is about Jalon Daniels, and there's a couple of things that stick out. One, deep ball. You mentioned DJ Lagway. Daniels just a veteran version of that. Okay, 18 big-time throws on deep balls this year. 10 of them are in the 4 wins. If he hits the deep ball and he hits home runs, that's what he's become, is just a home run hitter, and that's what we're going to do, then you have a problem, right? Good news for Colorado. You got a good secondary. You've got Hunter, you've got McKinney, you've got Shiloh and Silman Craig, and I'm not sure if Preston Hodge is healthy this week. Well, you got all that stuff, right?
Colton Hood, yeah.
The 11th best coverage grade against deep balls this year. And I know there's been a couple of them that got away, but they've only allowed 13 deep completions all season, and 4 of them were actually last week against Utah in the second half when they were just slinging the ball to sling it because the game was over, right? So before last week, only 9 deep completions all season. Colorado's secondary is really good. They have Travis Hunter. I mean, they're going to be really good, right? And they are. The other thing is Daniels under pressure. This is the bigger one. Now, we talk about guys with splits under pressure. There's maybe no bigger split in college football than this. This makes some other guys, Retzloff and Lagway, under pressure look really good. 32 passing grade under pressure this year, 9.4% turnover-worthy play rate. And why does that come about? Because even under pressure, he's taking shots way downfield. The average depth of target of 15 yards. That's why the completion percentage is low. That's why the turnover-worthy play rate is high. He ain't looking for completions. If you're breathing down his neck in the pass rush, he's still going to throw. He's going to launch it downfield and just see what happens. And that's essentially the highs and lows of this Kansas offense right now. Here's what I'm going to say on the Colorado side. The pass rush, and you've mentioned this the last couple weeks, we're getting nasty with the pass rush now. The last, since week 8, the 6th best pass rush grade in college football, Colorado. Now, the run defense got fixed first. You mentioned it in the few weeks prior, but now we're getting the pass rush going. You know the two teams that are sandwiched between, the two teams that are 5-7 around them? South Carolina and Oregon. This is the company all of a sudden Colorado's keeping in the pass rush, and there's two guys making it happen. B.J. Green, who we thought before the season coming in from Arizona State, okay, that guy's going to be their best pass rusher. And Arden Walker has been ridiculous lately. I mean, these last 4 games these two guys have played, they are menaces up front. I mean, it's a whole different thing.
Didn't you say Abdul Carter is the only one with a higher pass rush grade than
Arden Walker? So since that, in that same stretch, since week 8, Colorado's played 4 games. Arden Walker is tied with Abdul Carter for the 3rd best pass rush grade among all edge players. And B.J. Green is 11th. B.J. Green has a better pass rush grade the last 5 weeks than James Pierce Jr.
Two guys who might be top 15 picks.
And Walker's tied for 3rd with Abdul Carter. That's how good these guys have been the last 4 games. And if those two are going to control in the pass rush, and they got good interior rushers too, but these two guys now have been established as that's the pair of pass rushers. If they get to Daniels, and this is just the way Kansas games, every Kansas game honestly has been about Kansas. If Jalon Daniels makes mistakes, they're going to lose, especially under pressure. If he doesn't make mistakes, they very well could win. If you get pressure on him, you can force him into mistakes, right? I don't think BYU got enough pressure on him last week. Colorado's been doing it lately. If those two guys, especially Walker and Green, get after it off the edge the way they have been the last month, then Colorado's absolutely going to win this game.
And Dawn, it's the same exact matchup on the other side. And I feel like it's a broken record at this point, but Kansas just get after Shedur Sanders, because Shedur Sanders, if he's not the best quarterback in the country, he's certainly on the short list right now. And I think his best attribute, you probably agree with me, is his processing ability, right? The ability to diagnose coverages and find the open receiver. He's doing that at an NFL level already. That's only possible, though, to do that if you have time in the pocket, which is why there's a pretty big split between his PFF grades when he's kept clean versus when he's under pressure. 93.9 passing grade when kept clean, 57.9 when under pressure. And Dawn, since week 7, you mentioned how their pass rush has been really good over the last few weeks. Since week 7, Colorado is 5th in the Power 4 with an 84.3 pass blocking grade this year. Jordan Seaton and a lot of the other guys they have, Cash Cleveland obviously as well, they have been dominating in pass blocking. And when last year that was really their kryptonite, was the pass protection. Over the last, since week 7, they're 5th in the Power 4 in pass blocking grade this year. I will say, though, Kansas has done a pretty good job of getting after the quarterback right now. They're 33rd in pressure rate, 29th in knockdown rate. If you don't know what knockdown rate is, sacks and hits, basically. They're 29th in terms of how often they get those. They've done that while only blitzing on about 32% of their plays. It's 93rd in FBS in terms of blitz rate. And Kansas has got a really talented secondary, like you mentioned, with Melo Dotson, Kobe Bryant, our guy back there as well. So with those guys behind the front 7, I think in this game they might be able to afford sending a blitz a little bit more, just to make sure they get after Shedur Sanders. Because if you give that guy time back there, he will pick you apart. If you give that time back there against any secondary in America, I think he's able to win against any secondary in America. The only opportunity you have to make Shedur Sanders look somewhat human is if you pressure him. And I think Kansas, they've done a pretty good job of getting after the quarterback, but I think if they blitz a little bit more in this game, that's the avenue for them to bother Shedur Sanders a little bit to maybe have a shot at winning this game.
I'm going to do 2 call-outs right now. One, you mentioned Cash Cleveland, right? True freshman, walk-on center, Jordan Seaton's teammate at IMG. He's played in 3 games this year, played for the vast majority of the Texas Tech game, and then started last week. So far, 102 pass blocking snaps. No pressure. Not one from a true freshman walk-on center. That's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. They have found something with that guy. The other matchup I want to point out in the passing game is I think this could be another big week. I know he's had a couple of them, LaJohntay Wester in the slot for Colorado going up against Marvin Grant in the slot for Kansas. If you want to get away from Dotson and Bryant on the outside, 'cause that's kind of the one thing BYU doesn't have that they couldn't bother Kansas with last week, was some dynamic threat in the slot, right? Roberts and Lassiter work a lot on the outside. I think LaJohntay Wester could be a main target early in this game for Colorado. And, of course, I got to call out the FAU legend when I can. But, I mean, those are a couple of guys I wanted to shout. But I do think this is a different challenge for Kansas defense. And the story is, as always, if you don't get to Shedur, good luck to you.
Yeah.
That's just how that works. It's the tale as old as time now.
So, Dolan, ultimately, will Colorado continue to control their own destiny in the Big 12 title race, or for the third straight week, will Kansas take down one of the best teams in the Big 12?
So I think absolutely we know they have the talent. Kansas can score with Colorado. I don't think there's any question with that. They have the talent to be able to score. You've got Daniels, you've got Neal, Highshaw, Skinner, Grimm. You've got plenty of guys who can play on offense. I don't love Kansas defense that much.
Yeah.
Okay, since Big 12 play started, they have the 7th lowest defense grade in the Power 5. I just don't know that they're going to make enough stops. If Daniels doesn't turn the ball over, I would expect this to be a high-scoring game. Now, I thought last week would be a high-scoring game, and we got 17-13. So BYU did a great job of shutting down the run game for Kansas. You shut down the run game and you make Daniels beat you. I think you take your chances. You see if you can get the takeaways. But I like Colorado. I think it will be a high-scoring game on the road. Arrowhead Stadium. Shedur gets to play in Arrowhead. How about for this one? But I'll take Colorado 38-31. I do think Kansas is dangerous, but I think the two differences are Colorado, I think, certainly has the better defense, and I can trust Shedur more with the ball security, whereas Daniels, it's a 50-50 proposition. If he turns the ball over, this could be a blowout in Colorado's favor. If he doesn't, then we get a good game out of it. But there's really no scenario where Shedur Sanders, outside of he has to get by the first drive of the game because he's got 3 interceptions this year on the first drive of the game, get by the first drive of the game and whatever that causes. But I think Colorado outscores Kansas anyway. I think they make enough stops to get a win on the road.
Yeah, I think Colorado's going to win as well. I got 35-27. I think Colorado's offensive line has really just figured it out over the last couple of months. And if you give Shedur Sanders time, you keep him up right back there, he'll put up at least 30 on almost any defense in college football, including Kansas, like you said, who has struggled in Power 4 play as well. I think the Buffalo survive in advance and move on and move 1 win away from, I think, securing a Big 12 title game spot and potentially a college football playoff spot if they win out the rest of the season as well. So both got Colorado beating Kansas in this one. Hey, thanks for watching another episode of the PFF College Football Show. Please make sure you guys subscribe to the channel.
Also, subscribe to PFF Plus at subscribe.pff.com for all of the same data and grades that we use in our show, plus fantasy tools, betting tools, and our mock draft simulator.